In general, the African Leadership Group is an ecosystem of organizations that catalyze a new era of ethical, entrepreneurial African leaders. Fred previously worked as a McKinsey consultant in South Africa before earning his MBA from Stanford School and became an entrepreneur. He's a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader, an Echoing Green Fellow, an Aspen Institute Fellow, and was named one of Forbes magazine's top 10 young power men in Africa just in 2011. And most recently, 2019, he has been recognized as one of Times magazine's most influential people. Can we please have a resounding round of applause for Mr. Fred Swaniker?
I'd like to thank the chairperson and the board of WIMBIZ and all of you for inviting me to speak here today. I've been invited to speak at Keynote, I think, to speak at WIMBIZ, I think, for the last 3 years. And so, because of the persistence, I said, okay, fine, I'll come and see this WIMBIZ. And I'm excited to be here on your 18th WIMBIZ conference, and I want to congratulate the organization for keeping something going for so long. I wanted to start with that video because I think for me, to really understand what I'm passionate about, that video captures a lot of it. My big passion is unlocking the human potential that we have in Africa. And specifically, in the next 16 years, our goal is to empower and develop 1.5 million young women leaders like the ones you saw in the video. The other 1.5 will be men. So collectively, we've set a goal of developing 3 million leaders for Africa in the next 16 years. And, you know, and with that, of course, we have a target of at least 50% of those being women. But before I go more into what, you know, what exactly we're doing to enable more women to take their rightful place at the table of leadership, I thought maybe I'll take a step back to why I'm so passionate about women and why I believe so much in the potential of women, and that women really hold the keys to many of our challenges that we have in Africa and in fact in the world. My passion starts first with my upbringing. My mother was a tiger, a tigress woman. From the very beginning, she left me, first of all, at the age of 18 months because she wanted to go and get her graduate degree in the US. And so by the time she came back, I actually didn't know who she was because I was only, I was 18 months. So I remember she would have to catch me and put me in the bed next to her. And then when I'd wake up, I'd see this strange woman and I'd run away. But that created a very interesting and special bond between myself and my mother. And obviously, as I grew up, I started to see why she had left me at that age to go to get her graduate degrees, because she knew that she needed to develop herself and to go and get further education and so forth, right? And so she was willing to make that small sacrifice. And as I grew, I noticed that she was a very independent and strong woman. She had her own bank account. She had her own job. She paid 50-50 for what happened in the house. Even though my father made 2 or 3 times her income, she insisted that she would pay her share of everything that was happening in the house, and really showed that she was an independent woman. And I think that, for me, showed me my first role model of a powerful, strong, independent African woman. And it's that strength of character that she had that allowed her, when my father passed away when I was 16 years old, to continue with her life. In fact, she became far more successful after my father passed away. And that's not because, but she had all the intrinsics that she had been building up, and because she had been independent from the beginning, she was able to actually then build her own business and become this very successful businesswoman in Botswana. And so today she's one of the women that I still continue to look up to. She advises me in all my work in the African Leadership Group. I also believe in surrounding myself with very strong women. The chancellor of my university is Mrs. Grasa Machel, the widow of, who you all know. And so she's one of my favorite role models, and we spend a lot of time together, and she's helping me on our endeavors as we're building our leadership movement across the continent. So therefore, it was no surprise when we started the African Leadership University, and we said our goal is to develop 3 million leaders for the continent in the next 16 years. It was no surprise that as we built this institution, we said firstly, 50% of our young leaders have to be women. Secondly, as we're building the curriculum and the infrastructure in this school, most universities have a school of law, a school of business, a school of engineering, and so forth. What we felt we needed to do is, because we're building an institution that had a purpose. We're not building an education institution just for education's sake, or a leadership institution just for leadership's sake. But rather, we were developing a generation of leaders with a clear purpose, which is to transform Africa. And so we thought, what are the challenges that Africa is facing? And we identified what we call the 7 grand challenges of Africa. These are big problems that if we don't solve them, we're really in trouble as a continent. Challenge number 1 is urbanization. There are 800 million people who are going to move into African cities in the next 35 years. This is one of the cities that is going to see by far the largest population growth in the entire world. I read a statistic that a couple of years ago, more babies were born in Nigeria than the entire Western Europe. And as more and more, as this population grows, and they want to move into our cities in Africa, Lagos is going to be one of the epicenters of this urbanization that the world is going to see. And so that's going to create all kinds of challenges around traffic. You think the traffic is bad now? Wait and see what's coming. Housing, sanitation, transportation, logistics, urban planning. There's going to be so many challenges related to this urbanization challenge. Another big challenge is healthcare. Climate change. Africa is one of the continents that's going to be worst affected by climate change. Infrastructure. How do we build our ports and our railways and our cities and all these things? Unemployment of our youth. We're going to have 1 billion people, the largest workforce in the world, by 2035. So these are all big challenges that we said, if we don't solve these challenges, Africa is doomed, and in fact the whole world is doomed. But then we came up with another list of what we call the 7 great opportunities. And these are the opportunities, these are the low-hanging fruit where Africa has been blessed. But we haven't captured them yet. And there's no excuse for us not to be world-class in these 7 areas, because we have been blessed and well endowed as a continent. So those 7 opportunities we listed. Number 1 is agriculture. Today we import about $40 billion of food into this continent that we have perfect soil and water conditions to grow. And yet we are importing them. A lot of that importation is coming here into Nigeria. This, in my mind, is a travesty. There is no excuse. We have the rain, we have the sunshine, and yet we are spending $40 billion to America and Europe and Asia for our food. This is unexcusable. Another big opportunity we identified is tourism. So much fantastic opportunity in tourism. And the nice thing about tourism is you don't even need much education. All you need is a warm heart to receive your guests and to cook or to be a masseuse. These are all jobs that don't need university degrees. So easy way to us to capture opportunities through tourism. The third thing, this is in no order of importance, by the way. We identified the empowerment of women as one of the low-hanging fruit for Africa. One of the greatest opportunities for development. And for me, it just makes pure common sense. It's not only about it being fair and socially just and so forth. Yes, those things are very important. But from a very practical perspective, if we want to develop Africa, we have to empower its women. Because once women are empowered and educated, then they ensure that the entire next generation is also going to be educated. Then we're also going to have fewer children, because the more women are empowered and educated, they tend to have fewer children. And so just by that single act alone, GDP per capita will go up, because you divide GDP by a smaller number of people, you get higher GDP per capita. It's very simple mathematics. So if we have fewer children, then what little wealth and prosperity we have as a continent is going to be better for all of us. It's going to be shared by fewer people. But that can only happen if we empower women, we educate women, we get them into the workforce. And as long as we are limiting the potential of 50% of our human capital on this continent, we are going to remain poor. And so for me, that's also another low-hanging fruit that we have as a continent. Then we've got other things like the arts and entertainment, music, where again, huge opportunity for the world, for Africa. And what I like about that is it doesn't require much capital, it just requires your brain and your creativity. And that one I must applaud Nigerians, because you have actually shown what can happen in that space with what you've done with the music. Everywhere you go in the world, Nigerian music is playing. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago. I was walking out of a hotel, and in the hotel's loudspeaker blasting through the whole hotel was Yemi Alade, "I'm looking for my Johnny." I was like, am I in New York? What am I hearing? You get into a cab, there's the bunch. We have gone global, right? And so we need to do the same thing in film. Again, Nigeria has, Nollywood, let's take it up a notch, because we have great potential there already, and another, low-hanging fruit. So the list goes on. We put another great opportunity as the opportunity for regional integration. We do very little trade with ourselves as a continent. We do about 15% of our trade intra-African, whereas the rest of the world is trading with itself 85%. We don't invest in each other as Africans. We're too siloed. Unless we come together, we're going to be far less powerful. Wildlife conservation as well. We have some of the world's largest stocks of incredible wildlife. No one else has that. That's a unique asset that we have that we can make money from and bring tourists to come and see it. But if we invest in our wildlife and actually think about how do we leverage wildlife as a key pillar of economic development. So these are all the challenges, but then the opportunities. And what we ask the young leaders that we're developing to say, when you go to this university, don't choose an academic major. Like universities say BA in history, BSc in chemistry. We say, declare a mission for your life. Identify one of these challenges, one of these opportunities, and build your life around trying to solve those challenges. So they build their own learning experiences around those 7 challenges and those 7 opportunities. And as we are building the schools within the university, we are not building a school of architecture, a school of business, a school of law, a school of engineering. We're going to be creating our schools around these challenges and opportunities. So one day you're going to see an entire school We've actually started a small pilot of this. It's going to be launching next year in Ethiopia, focused entirely on gender, on issues like sexual and reproductive health, ensuring that we can get more women into leadership and so forth. And that is the beginnings of what will one day be a full school dedicated to doing research and training of women to take rightful leadership roles in society. So again, this for me is all about common sense. It makes common sense. But there's one issue that I want to bring up today, which I believe is a central issue that we must talk about if we are truly going to see women rise to their rightful place on this continent. And that is the issue of confidence. You saw in the drone video these two women coming together using their ingenuity and building a very sophisticated piece of technology, a drone, and then getting it to fly. These are two young women at our university in Mauritius. And she says her very last line, she says, what this taught me was confidence. She says, I also realized that anyone can do it, and I can do it. And this is an issue that has been on my mind in the last few months, because I started noticing something about my team. In my executive team, I have about 11 people, 3 men and 8 women. And in fact, one of those on my executive team is here. Tolu, can you stand up, please? Tolu is the general manager of our new site in Nigeria that we're setting up. So that university, that thing that you saw, which is developing world-class African leaders, we're bringing a version of it here. It's called ALX, and she's the one who's starting it. So if it's not up and running and very vibrant in a year, you know where to go. She would not have done her job. And I encourage all of you to please support her and mentor her and help her to get this thing to get started, because if there's one place that needs good leadership, it's Nigeria. So I started noticing that the women on my team, who I had very high belief in, I had to spend a lot of time reassuring them about their strengths and their abilities. And my impressions of the women would be here, and their impressions of themselves would be here. And then for the men on my team, it was the other way around. Their impressions of themselves would be here, and my impressions of themselves would be here. And so I thought, is this just coincidence? Is this just some stereotype or something? Is it just an unusual thing on my team? And then I thought, let me go and learn more. So I went onto Google and I typed in male overconfidence. Page after page after page after page of research that showed up. And this is a global phenomenon that throughout the world, women tend to underestimate their abilities and men tend to overestimate their abilities. And in fact, there was one study that I read from a research they did at Hewlett-Packard, software computer company, technology company in Silicon Valley. I'm sure many of you know Hewlett-Packard. And they found that when there was a job opening, men applied for the job promotion when they met 60% of the qualifications required. But women would only apply when they met 100% of the qualifications. So what doomed the women wasn't their actual ability. It was just that decision not to try. And so some man who was less qualified got the job. Meanwhile, the woman who was qualified enough If the guy got the job with 60% of the qualification, maybe the woman had 80%, but she didn't apply because she was waiting to get 100%. And meanwhile, the man got the job and a less competent man. And I'm experiencing this all the time as I'm looking at my executives. And so we can do, the world can do everything to remove barriers, to create equal education opportunities, to try to make sure there's equal pay for women, and so forth. But as a society and as women, we have to talk about this issue, about how do we get our own confidence up, our belief in ourselves. And many of you who are mothers, how are you bringing up your children, your women, your girl child, such that they don't continue to perpetuate this cycle? Because they say you can take a horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink. So if the world creates all these opportunities for women, I don't know the answer to this question. But it's something that research is showing throughout the world as a big barrier to women fully stepping into their own abilities, into their own realms, and grabbing their rightful place in society. And this also plays its part in terms of wealth creation. Because we're only going to get wealthy as a continent, or as individuals, as families, as countries, through entrepreneurship. Government is not going to create the jobs. The government can create right enabling environment to make entrepreneurship more viable and so forth. But entrepreneurs then need to step up and to take a chance and to go out on a limb and to believe in themselves and do audacious things in order to really build very successful businesses. So studies also show that men are much more willing to take risk, which comes from this overconfidence of theirs. Entrepreneurship is all about taking risk. And so, how do we, and this is just a question I'm asking, I don't know the answer. But if this is not a conversation that you're having at WIMBIZ about how you build your own confidence as women, and how do you nurture your children, your girl child, how do we create conditions in schools? So for me, all the young women that we're grooming, then my number one objective is to make them confident women. Because I know that unless I do that, unless we do that, they're going to go out and continue to underestimate their own abilities, and men will continue getting ahead of them. And so that's really, for me, is the thought that I wanted to leave you with. Is that to unlock Africa's potential, we have hundreds of millions of women with bright ideas, with energies, with innovation, and they are sitting on them, and they're afraid to step up and unwilling to take risk, not applying for those jobs, not taking the step to be an entrepreneur. And so I really want us to put our heads together and think about what can we do, both what men need to do, but also what women need to do to ensure that the next generation can break this cycle. Because otherwise we are going to continue seeing this over and over and over again. But I'll end with on a hopeful note. Yesterday, I hosted the global chief executive officer of Coca-Cola together with 20 of his top executives from the whole company, from Atlanta. They came to spend about 3 hours with me and my team at the African Leadership Academy in South Africa. They wanted to understand the potential for talent in Africa. And so I said, if you want to understand it, don't talk to me. I want you to meet us, the talent that we're producing. So I had a panel of 2 women and one guy, one young man, who are they have been through our institutions, the African Leadership Academy. And they graduated, they've gone on to university, and they're now working on the continent. One woman from Sudan talked about how she's gone back to South Sudan. After the African Leadership Academy, she went to Yale University in the US. And then she came back, and she's been working in the peace process in the country, and is right now one of the key authors of the constitution of the country, and she's 28. And as she spoke and she shared her vision for Sudan and the work she was doing to transform the country, it was so clear that this woman one day could be the president of South Sudan. The other woman sitting next to her had gone to a school in South Africa which had no electricity, no books, and sort of in zinc shacks. And she had managed to come through the African Leadership Academy and went to university in the US, and then joined PricewaterhouseCoopers and was their #1 person on their sort of assessment program for university graduates in the whole world. She was the #1 person. And so this next generation is coming along. But how do we produce more of them? And how do we make sure that they have that confidence? The Coca-Cola team at the end of it said, we want to hire all of you because we're seeing the potential talent that exists. So again, congratulations on this initiative. It's a very important initiative to get women together to think about how you can collaborate, support each other, invest in yourselves. But as you do this, I really hope that this issue of confidence remains top of mind. About how are you going to build this confidence in yourselves, and how are you going to build it in the next generation? Because you have more potential than you think. Thank you.
Kindly, sorry, Mr. Swaniker, could you kindly wait on stage as we present you your gifts? Would like to call on Mrs. Adishola to please join us to give Mr. Swaniker his gifts, please. Sorry. Yes, please. Thank you very much. And Ms. Talabi as well. Sorry. Go ahead, my darling. Sorry.
Okay, at this time, we told you we have people streaming live from 11 countries. We've got, yes, can we give them a round of applause? We have somebody all the way in Bulgaria. We have somebody in Switzerland. We've got people in California tuning into this. So I don't think that round of applause was good enough. Because as I said earlier, in order for you to sign on for this kind of conference remotely, it means that you really want to grow and you're committed to that. So we celebrate them. And to celebrate them a little bit further, we have a raffle draw. It's a $50 Amazon voucher that they can use anywhere in the world. And I'm going to call on Ijoma Taylor to please come. And Malade. So we can award somebody online a nice gift voucher. A round of applause for Ijoma as she comes. All their names are in here if you're wondering what that is. It's free and fair. No cheating. $50 Amazon voucher, gift card. All right, let's do this. You swirled it around? No, you can't look in, no. Okay. And the winner of the $50 voucher or gift card to Amazon on our online platform is
Idoshinubi.
Pretend like she's here. Woo!
Idoshinubi. Okay. Sorry.
Wherever you are, Ido, can we find out where she's streaming from, and then we'll let you know what country she's streaming from. Yes.
Okay. A round of applause for the winner of the Amazon gift certificate. Thank you so much again for joining the live stream team. We really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you again, Mr. Swaniker, for your amazing keynote speech. We're going to move on swiftly to the next panel. Mr. Swaniker's keynote speech was really loaded, and we would like to give people an opportunity to ask him a few questions. So if you can get 1 or 2 questions from the audience, I would like to quickly take that so that we don't spend too much time on it, because I think that some people have specifically said that they want to ask questions. Do we have any question online? And do we have any questions on the floor? You can walk up to either of the microphones on either end of the room to quickly ask a question.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As I listened to Mr. Swaniker's speech and his, I know he talks about 50% women, 50% men, but because I set up an organization called Boys to Men Foundation, I'm really concerned about how he feels the mindset of men can be changed, because nothing will change without a mindset change. Even the things that women are doing, if we don't have the buy-in of men, a lot of those things won't change. Attitudes won't change. We had a session today about sexual abuse, and unless and until we force men to look at these issues and to take responsibility. So when we run programs, how do we run them? How do we emphasize the importance of parenting? How do we emphasize the importance of father-son relationships? I'd just like to know what programs you have for addressing those things. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. That's an excellent question. See, when I look at the issue of gender empowerment, I don't think of it as an issue for women only. I think of it as an issue for every segment of African society and of global society. Right? So, you know, when we are doing our training, for example, at the African Leadership University, every single student, thank you, has to eventually go through each of those 7 challenges and 7 opportunities, whether or not they're going to specialize in that or not. So we want every single person to go through training programs about why it's so crucial that we empower women and what men can do to make spaces for women and to invest in women and to believe in women and so forth. So absolutely agree with you that this is men's mindsets needs to change. You know, conferences like this honestly should have more men in this room, right? So that they should be understanding, learning with you, and exchanging ideas and seeing your brilliance, so that they also realize that, you know, so we need to look at how do we educate men differently, to think differently about women. How do you bring up your boy children to look at women differently? The way they see, you know, their mother and father behaving influences the way they think about women. So those are all things that we need to do in order to change, you know, the mindsets of women. I was blessed in my family that I had a mother who did that. You know, so it really influenced the way that I think. And so I absolutely agree with that it's a societal issue that we need to ensure that men change their mindsets and so forth. But that is what we have been talking about forever, and it needs to continue. the point I was making is that even after that has been done, even after the men have given you the space and they believe and so forth, like I'm saying with my executive team, I think they are here and they think they are here. So now whose problem is that? We need to do our bit. And what I'm saying is we can, keep waiting for men to give us these things, but we also need to step up and rise and go after opportunities and take those risks and have confidence in ourselves. And that's how collectively this will resolve. But men have to change their habits, but women also need to step up and own their own greatness. That's what I'm saying.
We'll take the next question. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bola Akinlabi. So I have two questions. The first one is listening to you. Thank you. Thank you. So the first one is I feel like I might have missed one or two of the problems you identified with Africa and maybe one of the opportunities. I only got to 6. I don't know if maybe I blanked out for a minute, but I only have like 6 listed out here.
I can tell you the full list later. Just in the interest of time,
Awesome.
I was just giving them
Okay,
examples.
beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, so I wasn't sleeping somewhere in between. The second question I have is, again, throwing back to your huge success with the African Leadership Group and the great products that come from that university and, in the different spaces where you are currently. And because formal education, I find is, I don't want to say it's secondary. I feel that education, a lot of education has to be done maybe in the informal space. And I ask, how do we build the curriculum to deal with the confidence problem for women, just specifically speaking to the confidence issue you mentioned for women? How do we build a curriculum that addresses the confidence issue for women in all the other social spaces where women meet and women group? How were you, for example, able to put a curriculum together that speaks to it in your African Leadership University? And if we wanted to replicate that in the spaces where we stand, woman to woman, woman mentoring woman, and mothers mentoring their daughters, how would we build that curriculum? What would we look out for? And what would be the building blocks for building a curriculum that addresses the issue and churns out women who are stepping into their opportunities, recognizing their strengths, not being held back by their weaknesses, but are ready to just step into the open spaces and opportunities that you've identified today? Thank you.
All right, we'll take the last question, and then we'll have you answer both at the same time.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jumoke Adegunle. I work with Lafarge Africa. I work in a role where I help people build more beautiful houses. So my question for you, I just wanted to hear your thoughts about different things we have going on, like where we see the US take Africans for leadership training. We see UK do it under Commonwealth. What are your thoughts on all these schemes? There was a big one under Barack Obama. And is this a space where you see the African Leadership University coming in?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last bit. Please speak up a bit loud.
So my question was, we have this scenario, well, not even a scenario, it's happening, where we see the US taking Africans, inviting them over for courses or mentoring programs, or mainly leadership actually, for leadership schemes or, programs in the US. And we see the same happening in the UK as well, mainly under Commonwealth. What are your thoughts? I would like to hear your thoughts about those programs. And is this a space where you see the African Leadership University coming in?
Okay. You're talking about the scholarship programs like the Young African Leadership Program, the Obama Fellows thing, all those things.
Yeah, not only scholarships, but even those kind of programs.
And chevening scholarships to the UK and things like that.
No.
Okay, I get
not scholarships, not scholarships.
Leadership programs.
Yeah, like they're free. It's not, you don't really pay for it.
Like the Eisenhower Fellows Program and things like that.
Yeah, especially the Barack Obama one, for example.
Sorry?
Especially the Barack Obama one, for example.
The Obama one?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, okay, sure. No, sure. To the first question of how do we build a curriculum around that can ensure that women build that confidence, etc. I feel that it's actually not an issue of curriculum. It's more an issue of culture. Because, and these cultural traditions start from a very early age. And it's mostly shaped and formed in the family, in the home. And so, yes, there are things that schools can do to obviously enhance it. You know, for example, ensuring, one of the things we do at our institutions is that when we have student government, we insist that there's a male chair and a female chair. So that means that there's co-chairs of the student government. And so that means that there's always going to be a woman who's going to take one of the presidential roles. So that's an example of a practical thing. You know, we ensure that we have extra scholarships for women, for example. So, you know, we have a business school that brings students, you know, mid-career professionals from all across Africa to Rwanda. And this class that's just entered, 57% of the class are women, because we created special scholarships for them. And when I went to business school at Stanford, only 30% of the class were women, right? So, you know, we can do things like that, where we are investing in extra scholarships for women. We are creating programs, you know, within the school. You can have a curriculum, for example, the curriculum that we have around gender empowerment, we want men to take it as well as the women. It's not just this is program for women and then the men don't. So there's a lot you can do, right, to build that confidence in. But ultimately, whether it's in education, it's in the informal sector, primary school, secondary school, vocational, university, you name it. What will make or break the confidence issue is culture. It's the culture that you have in the school, where, you know, the students are looking at the way that the faculty are treated. Is the school headed by a woman? You know, what is the gender ratio amongst the staff? When they give leadership opportunities to the students, do they give equal opportunities to men and women and so forth? So there's a lot of these things that, but ultimately it boils down to culture and the way you think and the way you see women. And that, the most powerful place for us to do that is actually in your control. It's in all our controls. It's what happens in the family. Because that's where the most, these mindsets are changed. And to the final question about, you know, African leadership programs where people go to the US, like the Yali program and so forth. I don't know if you understand the scale of what we are doing. We are training 3 million leaders in Africa, right here on the continent, by opening universities, leadership centers in every city. We're probably going to have 5 or 6 in Nigeria alone, right? So we believe that we have to build our own institutions that are world-class, that are better or as good as Harvard and Yale and Oxford and Princeton, right? Because how many people are going on those programs every year? 500 people from the whole of Africa. We're talking about training 3 million on the continent, right here, where we find our young people's leadership potential, develop them, invest in them. We are working with leaders at the entry stage of their lives, middle of their careers. We're working with many corporations to improve the leadership skills of their middle managers. We're doing executive training with top executives to make sure that leaders are being groomed right here at the home. That's why our name is African Leadership Group. And for me, you know, we are one example, but there should be more institutions that are homegrown African institutions that can groom people. So now when someone says, oh, scholarship program to go to the US or this thing, you say, oh, what program? There's a better one here in Africa, right? And that's really how we need to do this. But I think ultimately, we need to realize that Africa's development is more in our hands than anyone else's. And so that's really what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. Can I kindly ask the BOT to join him on stage for a picture? Please. Thank you.